Hello, I'm Alfred.
And I'm Chris.
It's Thursday, and this is Why Wait Till Sunday. Probably a top 5 midweek DFS college football show. All right, here we are. Week 0. The appetizer week is upon us, and I'm joined by my co-host, hopefully for the whole season, Chris Moxley. How's it going in Raleigh? That's where you are.
It's going well. I'm excited to do this year. I was listening to you last year, and we interacted a bunch, but now we got our whole process down, and I'm excited to bring the people DFS content this year.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have a co-host for one. Definitely did this show solo last year, but we've evolved. Lots changed since last year. We've got, I started the website, campus2canton.com. So now Why Wait Till Sunday as a brand is housed inside of campus2canton.com. But we are going to be the DFS and dabble in some betting content as well for our folks. Some of it's going to be member only, but for the Why Wait Till Sunday podcast and YouTube show will be always available for anyone. But certainly go, if you're listening to this and you have not checked out campus2canton.com, definitely go check it out. If you like what we're doing here on this show, you will love everything we've got over there, whether you're doing C2C leagues, college fantasy football leagues. We've got all sorts of tools. And, sometimes driving down the road, I just think to myself, I wonder what Julio Jones' sophomore year was compared to DK Metcalf's. And you can do that in an instant with our data tools. So stuff like that is really great. Of course, we got the Discord where we're just talking about everything college fantasy related all day long. We're going to have the DFS content. We're going to have some betting content added this year. But we're here to talk about week 0, and I couldn't be more excited, Chris. We had a little technical difficulties last night. I lost power, so we're doing this late on Thursday afternoon, squeezing it in. Normally, this should be released on Thursday mornings for you, so stick with us for that. Without further ado, are you ready to talk about week 0?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right, let's go. So we have got 3 games on the main DraftKings slate, and just to preface, Chris and I both play mostly tournaments in DraftKings, mostly single entry and 3 entry max. That's just kind of my sweet spot. That's why I found the most success. So when we're talking about these games, just keep in mind we're generally playing kind of a tournament strategy, a little bit more of a boom bust, mentality rather than trying to eke out a cash game. So just be aware of that. But hopefully, I think what we're talking about still helps you no matter what format you play. Chris, not Alabama. They're not till week 1. Nebraska at Illinois is going to be the first game we talk about. Give me some details about this game, an intriguing interconference game to kick off our season.
Yeah, we have Nebraska as a 7-point favorite heading to Champaign, actually. Their implied team totals 31. They go against an Illinois team who brings in Brett Bielema this year, who I think he's going to try to ground and pound his way to a win against Nebraska. Illinois upset them last year. I think Scott Frost's job is really in jeopardy. Nebraska continually fails to cover the spread as a favorite. I think this is a game that Illinois could go in and not only keep close, but ultimately pull out the win. So I'm really excited to see what happens in this game.
Yes. I'm growing more and more into thinking that Illinois will at least cover the spread. A team like Nebraska on the road having to lay a whole touchdown is insane to me. So we may be able to mine that game for some interesting stuff. The whole thing seems a little wonky. Next up, I get to talk about a very exciting game, probably the most exciting game for DFS purposes on the slate. That's UConn travels across the country to go play Fresno State. This is a blowout in the making. You've got Fresno State with almost a 4-touchdown favorite against UConn, who did not play football last year. And the last time they did play football in 2019, they were pretty bad. Fresno State's implied team total is 45. That would be highest on the slate, going up against the lowest implied total, UConn at 17.5. So, I've listened to some things, and there are some people that believe a little bit in UConn here, keeping it potentially close, which frankly, I think would be a good thing, because then Fresno wouldn't, take their foot off the gas, and we would get all that sweet, sweet offense that we like.
Yeah, no, I like that matchup. I think there's some good value to mine there. I agree with you.
All right, take us home with Hawaii at UCLA. Give me some deets.
Yeah, so this is our highest over-under on the slate, 68 points. UCLA is this 18-point favorite, which I think is absurd considering Chip Kelly, since he took over, has the fourth worst cover percentage in the country. He's actually failed to cover the spread by 8.8 points, so I think Hawaii keeps this fairly close. They also have a matchup against LSU the week after, so I think they're not going to really show their whole offense. I really think that we see a lot of back-and-forth football here. And Hawaii brings back all 11 starters on defense. I like the over in this game. I think both teams play at a quicker pace, but I think we're going to see a game that's closer than the spread indicates and really gives us some good DFS value.
Yeah, obviously that game looks real nice as well. So we have some options to choose from. It's just a little taste test, for the real thing coming up at the end of in week 1. But we're still going to roll out a bunch of lineups, no doubt. So let's talk about quarterbacks to begin this thing. Jake Haener. I mean, you kind of have to play Jake Haener. I feel like he's the most likely guy to go for 300 yards. The team total is the highest. So how do you feel about Haener?
Yeah, I think there's enough cheap options on this slate where you can fit him in. I don't think that he's going to be on a lot of rosters either. I think more people are going to flock towards DTR, Cordero, Adrian Martinez, because he is a lot higher price than the other options. But I'm willing to go up there for him. I think that, like you said, I think he is the best path to a 300-yard performance. And even if it's a blowout long term, like at the end of the game, it's going to be a blowout because of Haener. So I'm totally fine putting him in my lineup, even at 9,700.
Right. It is a steep price to pay for Haener on your roster, but I think it's definitely worth doing it. So who else do you like? I've got a couple QBs that I have narrowed down. There's, I guess, 6 playable QBs. You're going to have to play 2 on your lineup. Who else do you like?
I think DTR is the fairly obvious choice. He is actually pricier than Haener on FanDuel, but he's slightly below. He's actually $1,200 below Haener on DraftKings. I think he's a chance at a double bonus. I think he's the only player on this slate that could do that. I think he could have 100 yards. Hawaii's rush defense is pretty bad. He can throw for a ton of yards too. I really like DTR. I think Haener DTR will probably be my biggest play. I also like Cordero. Again, I think that game is going to be close. Hawaii's implied team total is 25. I think they're going to do better than that. UCLA plays fast. Their pass defense leaves some to be desired. I think that Hawaii can do something there. So those 3 are really the ones that I'm building my lineups around, but mostly DTR and Haener. I mean, I'm willing to pay up for those on the slate.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think I do think that it's Cordero is interesting, but certainly I think lower of interest. And you're getting a discount. You're getting $1,000 discount between DTR and Cordero. But then there are some other options. I think you and I are a little bit off. I think Adrian Martinez is going to be fairly popular, but I would say that's a strategic fade. I do not want Adrian Martinez on the road. He is a walking turnover, walking, mistake. Even though he gets a lot of rushing yards, he cannot throw the ball nearly enough to even flirt with the bonus in the passing game. So, and then Brandon Peters, I don't know. He's not going to run, so I don't really care about Brandon Peters. And then the only other guy would be the UConn quarterback, who I don't think we know who it is, actually. So there you go. I mean, I think there's really 3 quarterbacks to match here. So we can.
I think what you said. Yeah, no, I think Martinez will be popular on the slate. I think a lot of people are going to flock to him because he's cheaper. He has 27 fumbles and 20 receptions in 28 games. He's thrown for over 300 3 times in 28 games. He's hit the 100-yard bonus 5 times. I'm not sure that he does either this week. I think he's a low ceiling play against an Illinois team that I think is going to come out pretty strong. But yeah, I think a lot of people are going to try to fit Martinez in and go for Haener. But like you said, I think that's a strategic fade. I just don't see the upside with him this week.
Yeah, I'm in for that. And I think that, I'm totally with you there. So let's move to running backs. We got three quarterbacks. We're going to mix and match, depending on how many lineups you're going to do. But I think anything between Haener, DTR, Cordero, not going to go wrong there. And what do you like? Just give me your running backs. I mean, there's actually a decent amount, and I don't love a lot of receivers. So I think most of my lineups may have 3 running backs.
Yeah, I think I'm building that way as well. I think Ronnie Rivers is the priciest guy on the slate by a lot too. He's $1,400 more than Calvin Turner, but I think game script favors him a lot. They're going to be up and he can run the ball, and he's also a weapon in the receiving game. So I like Rivers. I also really like Turner. I mean, he's a big saving, so I don't mind plugging him in. He's going to get more work as a receiver anyway, plus some carries. I mean, that if that game even stays remotely close, or it doesn't really matter, I think, for Turner. I think he's game script proof, so I really like him. The third guy, Britton Brown, I think is going to absolutely smash this week. I love Britton Brown. I think UCLA, I think he's close to a lock for that 100-yard bonus on the ground. Hawaii's run defense is not very good, and I think that Brown is just going to feast.
Yeah, the only question is, what is the rotation, I think, in the UCLA backfield going to look like? I think you are a little more confident that Brown is going to be kind of a workhorse than I am, but I definitely like Brown. And, UCLA returns all 5 offense linemen from last year. I believe they returned the most production of any Power 5 team is what I read or heard the other day. And that's a big deal. And they should be able to muscle, I think, Hawaii's front 7. And I do see a heavy dose of running, whether it's DTR, Brown. For our purposes, I mean, I think Charbonnet is going to get in the mix too. I don't think he's very good, but I would imagine he'll get 10 to 12 carries. But I like Brown. I think Rivers and Turner, again, these 2 at the top of the list are worth paying up for if you can. Any value plays that you like?
I think one of our favorite plays in the slate is UConn's running back Kevin Mensah, and I think we'll talk about him a little bit later, just kind of more in depth. But outside of him, I think there's some questions about what it looks like in the Nebraska backfield, whether or not it's Sevion Morrison, whether or not it's like what role does Gabe Ervin have? Is it Marquis Stepp? It sounds like Morrison might be the guy, and at min, it's hard to pass him up. But there is uncertainty with that price point. So, I think he's going to be on a lot of teams. I think he'll be in a lot of lineups, but he has the potential to really pay off. So I'm interested in him. One guy I'll also bring up is Jordan Mims at Fresno State. So I think that if it's true that Fresno just pounds the rock and we get out to an early lead, I think we could see more Jordan Mims than we really want, which I think that puts him in play. But I'm not sure it takes enough away from Rivers to really take him out of consideration. But he's a guy that I think might get a little bit of more run than we're expecting.
That's interesting. I really thought that Fresno, kind of gives Rivers the bell cow treatment. But you think that, the backup, I guess you're talking garbage time, maybe gets a touchdown at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And he's only 4.7. So I think he is a super contrarian tournament play if you really want to.
Oh, yeah. No one's going to have him. No one's going to have him at all. So the interesting guy you brought up, and as we're getting closer to kickoff here on Saturday, the buzz is coming out of Nebraska that what you shared with me the other day is that head coach or OC, one of the two, has basically said, we've got our guy. We have a guy we'd like to give 20 to 25 touches to, and that's music to our ears, but they will not give us a name. And then there's been some beat writers. I've been following the Athletic has a Nebraska beat writer, and he's put out a couple of articles. And a week ago, he thought it was going to be Gabe Ervin. This week, he just said he thinks it's going to be Morrison getting the lion's share, which, oh my. I mean, if you're going to get a lion's share of the carries against Illinois, who's not very good on defense, even if that game is kind of slow, you're talking about a $3K salary for this dude who's going to get the lion's share of the carries. If that's true, I mean, all he needs is 15 touches at $3K, and I actually just pulled up his 24/7. They actually did a little write-up of him. He was a 4-star, so I mean, he was kind of well thought of, and says that he's got encouraging pass catching ability from the backfield and occasionally in the slot. So, give me 2 or 3 receptions, 10 to 15 carries at $3K. I mean, that's a no-brainer plug and play, kind of the whole skeleton key situation that we talk about sometimes on a slate. So I think Morrison's a play. I mean, the question is, I do love Rivers, Turner, Brown. We can only play 3. So if you slip in Morrison, what happens? Who are you going to take out? And Mensa, I love Mensa too. So I don't know. That's going to be a difficult question. There's 5 running backs that I really like, and which 3 of those 5 are you going to play, and how do you mix those puzzle pieces together? And we will have Saturday morning. Tune in for our live show. I mean, we'll be up to the date as much as possible, up to the second, with what we see in Nebraska. Hopefully we will find out who's taking first team reps in the, pregame warmups, that kind of thing. We're going to get that information all the way up to kickoff there. So tune in. Again, I forgot to switch to running backs. We're talking about running backs now, the bottom marquee there, but it's first show jitters. So, all right, so we've narrowed it down to about 3 quarterbacks, about 5 running backs that we really like. Let's talk receivers, and I'm going to need you to help me out because I basically want 1 receiver. It's the most expensive guy, Jalen Cropper for Fresno State, and after that, everything just kind of stinks.
So I don't think receiver is the place to invest this week. So yeah. I think there's a lot of value in receiver that you can use and then, fit Rivers and Turner or Hainer and DTR and play it that way. And I think that's the safer, higher upside play. I like Jalen Cropper. He averaged 21 points last year in DraftKings scoring. He's a wide receiver 1, but I think that they're going to spread the ball around enough to have enough value downstream on the roster where we really see some other guys take shape and really pay off at their price points.
So give me some of those lower price points. I mean, Cropper's 7,300. Kyle Phillips is $7K, kind of UCLA's number 1 receiver, but he didn't even have 100 yards in any single game last year. He's no way for that. So how far are we going until you start liking some of these guys?
I think Jared Smart is kind of in play if we think Hawaii is going to play catch up most of the game. He's their wide receiver 1. Turner's kind of the hybrid role. So he's 6,200. I think that's an okay play. I like Greg Dulcich. He averaged 16 points last year. He's the tight end, but his target share was over 31%, or market share is over 31%. So, I really like Dulcich. I think that he's probably the guy that I would want to stack with DTR. But, I don't think you have to stack anybody with DTR just based on his rushing ability. I think Isaiah Williams is interesting at Illinois. He's gotten some hype. But I'm really going in the 4K range to find some of my favorite value. I think Cameron Ross at UConn is, he's one of my favorite players. He had a phenomenal freshman season. He comes back as the true wide receiver 1. He's only 4,800. I think he'll be fairly popular, but, I think Fresno's defense is ranked 107th heading into this year, and I think that's exploitable. I think that they'll put up enough points to be respectable. I think Ross has got to do that. One of my favorite plays in the entire slate is Josh Kelly at Fresno. I think that he's the pivot off of Cropper, off Zane Pope, off Carrick Weekfall. In fact, Kelly's the only other listed starter next to Cropper. So I think he's mispriced.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the other Nebraska wide receivers, is it Torrey, who's 4,900? Is it Omar Manning, who's 4K? You know, I think those are some interesting plays in general. And if I want to go really, really cheap, you know, I think Cam Brown at UCLA is a good pivot off too. You know, I don't want to pay all the way up for Kyle Phillips, but I think Cam Brown from Texas A&M is the other starter there. And I think that he could be a guy to plug in at 3,400 if we think they're going to score, you know, close to their implied team total, which is 43 points.
Right. So is Cam Brown listed as a starter right now?
He is
pretty much what we're thinking. So yeah, 34 for him is really nice. I was playing around today when we saw the article and we were talking about it in the Discord about Morrison. And so plugged in Morrison in one of the running back spots, had all this extra cash, went up to Hainer at one spot from the mock lineup I had made. And then actually Cam Brown ended up being a guy who just fit as the wide receiver 3. So that price point is nice. It does allow, I can't remember the exact lineup, but it did allow for me to basically do everything else I wanted to do. And then Cam Brown just stood out as a guy, you know, in that 3,500 and below range who worked. So I mean, we've talked about this for 2 weeks now, and, you know, we're at this point, we're basically tracking. I think we don't have a lot of disagreement. We like similar players. So let's dig into what we're going to do. Is every week we're going to have a bargain bin and we're going to have a smash of the slate. And so we'll have 3 bargain bins for you on a big slate, but, you know, it's a small slate. So we're just going to have one this week. And that is the aforementioned Josh Kelly, receiver for Fresno State, but he's a starter and priced like a backup. You said you have a great number. What was he last year with his market share?
He was only 1.5% behind Garrett Wheatfall.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
15.9%.
Yeah, and Wheatfall is priced as the wide receiver 2, but Kelly is just as much a wide receiver 2.
Yep. And with Kelly, you're getting, you know, Wheatfall, the Fresno State depth chart looks like Cropper, Josh Kelly, Wheatfall, or Zane Pope. And Zane Pope was a guy in 2019. So, you know, what does Wheatfall roles look like? I'm not really sure. What does Pope's role look like? I'm not really sure. But I know Kelly's starting for a high-powered offense, and he's 4,400. I mean, it's really, really hard for me not to look at Josh Kelly and want to plug him in.
Yeah, Pope is priced at 6,700, and if you click on the update from yesterday, actually in DraftKings, the little blurb says he's listed as a backup. He will not start out of the gate like as a senior. Said he's arguably the most talented receiver. I don't understand why they would say that, but whatever. He's listed as a backup and priced at he's like the 3rd most expensive receiver on the slate. So definitely think you have something cooking here with Josh Kelly as a great bargain play. Obviously allows you to do a lot of the other things. We've said that the guys at the top of the list on each category are almost all worth it. So, you know, it's just a matter of you plug those guys in, and then how do you scrounge around the bargains to make that all work? And then next, we've got the smash of the week, smash of the slate, Kevin Mensah. You've already talked about him, running back for UConn. You found him the other day. We were chatting, and you were just like, "Hey, how is Kevin Mensah a thing?" And I was like, "I literally did not know who that was." You pointed out he had 1,000 yards as a freshman, 1,000 yards as a sophomore, and then they didn't play last year in 2019. So tell me a little more about Mensah, and I think you've got some interesting game script info as well.
Yeah, no, I love Mensah, and apparently Randy Edsall does too. I mean, he's priced incredibly, incredibly low, given that he has, you know, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons the last time they played. And it does not matter to UConn what they are doing. They're just going to run him anyway. Even if it's not efficient, they don't care. So in their last full season, 2019, they ran 30 or more times in 9 of 12 games, despite going 2-10. They only threw more than 31 times once. And they ran 40 times in a 38-3 loss, 38 times in a 56-10 loss, and 38 times in a 56-21 loss. They do not care about game script. They will feed Kevin Mensah all game. And if it goes, he has 25 carries for 100 yards, that's what it is. I think Mensah is the guy they're going to feed on the goal line. And at 4,200, you don't need that much from him to really hit. And I think that he's going to be a value as other people go to the higher name guys. Other people might, they might play Chase Brown, who I do like at Illinois, but Mensah is going to get just as much work on a team that wants to feed him. And he's already posted 1,000-yard seasons on his resume. I don't understand his pricing, and I think he can really be a guy you put in your flex and just pays off.
Right. And so, Randy Edsall this is his second stint at UConn. And back in the day, you may remember a fellow by the name of Donald Brown. Well, he had a 2,000-yard season in 2008. He rushed for 2,083 yards and 18 touchdowns. Now, of course, that's just one guy. But the next year, Andre Dixon and Jordan Todman combined for about 2,500 total yards and 29 touchdowns between the two of them. So, Randy Edsall has a history of some pretty remarkable running back play. Jordan Todman, the year after that in 2010, 334 attempts, 1,600 yards, and 14 touchdowns. This is just, it goes on and on and on. So when Edsall was there, like you said, he just wants to pound the rock. And that's what we're going to see here. I think, again, and it doesn't matter if it's a 27-point spread. Like you said, they when they're down, they'll still stick to their game plan. And so for us and our DFS lineups, that's what we want to see. So we don't want to have to worry about, they're down 28. They're going to stop running the ball. If anything, maybe he'll catch a few passes. So, yeah, so here's the question, and we'll kind of wrap it up with this since it is a short slate. When you're looking at your lineups now, with information we're kind of learning about Morrison, who is your bargain running back, or would you go both of those running backs? Like, how are you gonna make these decisions? I think there's 5 really nice options at running back. Is the answer just multiple lineups? What would your optimal lineup look like, do you think?
So that's a good question, right? So the types of contests that we're playing are single or 3 max entry. Usually, in most of what we're doing is on DraftKings, so all of our pricing is really speaking to that. But I think how many rosters is this guy going to be on? Like, how many people are plugging him in that day is a big question when we get to these lower end guys. So I think Morrison will be, I think he'll be on a ton of lineups. Like, I think he'll just be really popular based on the news coming out. I think Mensah is a good way to be contrarian on this slate. I don't think a lot of people are going to play him. And I think that's a mistake given what we know. If it's close, if it's within 14 or 15 at half, I think UConn's still running it in the late second quarter. I just don't think they care, so I probably prefer Mensah, just given, what we know. A lot of people are going to stay away from him considering the spread. They're going to just be scared off. And given what we know about UConn, I'm not sure that's really going to scare me that much. Fresno State's defense is bottom 25 in the country.
They're bad.
I'm not worried about Mensah like I think some people are, and he's a guy that I'm probably going to target, right? And I'll play Ronnie Rivers, I'll play Calvin Turner, I'll play Britton Brown, and then I'll throw Mensah in where I want to pay up at wide receiver, and I want to play Dolce, right? Or maybe I'll play Cropper in a lineup or two, or maybe I'll sneak in Jared Smart, and so in those lineups, I'll get a little bit different rather than going heavy, Britton Brown, Calvin Turner, Ronnie Rivers. Those are lineups I'll play Mensah. And I cannot say enough about how much I think Mensah is going to be a sneaky play this week.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. We've seen the tendencies of the coaching and the style of the offense and what they want to do. They've had success. Fresno State is a bad defense. Let's not make any mistake. They are not running into some stout, front. UConn stinks, but Fresno State stinks on defense, at least, as well. And I've listened to some smart guys. I mean, I listened to some betting podcasts as well, because I think even if you're not laying down wagers, it's important to understand what people think about the game flow, how these things will happen. For instance, in a 27-point situation, if I'm listening to smart people and they're thinking UConn's got an outside shot to keep this thing close and cover that spread, if that's the case, I'm even less worried about Mensa. I mean, I think people, like you said, they see this 27 points and like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be 50 to 10 at halftime. And they're not going to even run the ball in the second half. Well, that's really not how football works usually anyway. I mean, on a spread that big, what probably happens is maybe is in striking distance in the third quarter, and then maybe the fourth quarter teams pull away and cover that spread or something like that. But I have listened to some smart people that seem to think UConn's going to surprise and actually keep this game a little closer, which just underscores Mensa even more.
They were according to the New York Times, they were the 2020 national championship. So we probably need to put some respect on their name.
The Huskies. Yeah. I don't remember exactly what that was, but yeah, they dubbed them the national champions because they opted out of the season or something like that.
Yeah. So Fresno has to go up against the national champions week 1 and then Oregon week 2. I mean, it's not as easy as everyone's making it out to be.
Well, and for a team like Fresno, they know they're going to Oregon week 2. Could be a little look ahead spot. They think they can just trounce UConn. And I'm not saying they're not going to win the game. In fact, I think if it's close, it's good for everybody. It's good for the Fresno offense to keep clicking. It's good for Mensa and the UConn offense to put up some points. It's good I'm personally a fan of the Fresno team total over. I think like 44-45, something like that, because I think it is going to be a sneaky close game, and they're going to have to continue to, throw the ball, which is what they do best, and put up points. So I think close game's good for everyone, and I'm kind of starting to believe that's actually how it's going to play out. Yeah,
no, there's a lot of value in that game that I think that we're on.
Yeah. Well, I think that'll do it. Tune in Saturday morning. We're going to have, last minute information. Like you said, though, it's a good point. Everyone's going to be on Twitter. And if Morrison's getting first team reps, he will automatically become, hyper valuable and hyper, popular. And so maybe he's a strategic fade as well. And then we're going to have up to the minute injury information. I think I'm gonna see if we can get some of that. There's night game action with a couple of other teams going on that we didn't cover here. Maybe we'll speak to that a little bit, but it's gonna be a great show. So Saturday morning, we're gonna go live. Look for the link on Twitter. And without further ado, that's why wait till Sunday, week 0. How do you feel, Chris?
I'm just excited for college football to be back.
Me too, man. And I'm just glad it's here. And look forward to binking some tourneys.